Look at this image. Really look at it. Your history books tell you this was built in the late 19th century. They tell you it was built by men on horses, using pulleys, ropes, and hand tools. They tell you that this entire city, massive domes, intricate statues, canals that rival Venice, was built in less than 2 years. And then they tell you it was made of plaster and hemp and was designed to be temporary. Does that make sense to you, or does your gut tell you something is wrong? Welcome to the greatest mystery lying in plain sight. Welcome to the story of the civilization that was erased. Welcome to Tartaria in America. We're taught that America in the 1800s was a developing nation, a land of cowboys, gold miners, and pioneers struggling to tame the Wild West. Yet the photographic evidence from that same era shows us cities that look like they belong to a 1,000-year-old European empire. San Francisco, Chicago, New York, St. Louis, cities filled with megalithic stone structures, electric streetcars before electricity was supposedly widespread, and architecture so precise we can barely replicate it today with modern technology. Today, we are going to peel back the layers of the official narrative. We are going to look at the mud flood, the orphan trains, and the free energy grid that may have powered a lost American empire. This isn't just a story about buildings. It's a story about the theft of human history. Before we descend into the rabbit hole, I need you to do one thing. Suspend your disbelief. The things I'm about to show you will challenge everything you learned in school. If you want to uncover the truth hidden in your own city, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We're building a community of truth seekers, and you don't want to miss what's coming next. Let's dig in. Grand and documentary. Let's return to Chicago, 1893. The Columbian Exposition. They called it the White City. According to the official story, this neoclassical wonderland was built on a swamp. The architects, supposedly working with primitive technology, erected over 200 massive buildings spanning 600 acres. Let's look at the logistics. To build this today, with modern cranes, CAD software, and a billion-dollar budget, would take a decade. Yet we are told they did it in roughly 24 months. And the explanation? It was temporary. Historians say these were facades, staff, a mixture of plaster of Paris and jute fibers painted to look like marble. But look at the photos, look at the shadows, look at the load-bearing capacities. These buildings held tens of thousands of people. They housed massive machinery. Could a temporary plaster shed support the weight of the world's largest steam engines? Could plaster withstand the winds of Lake Michigan for months without cracking? And then the convenient tragedy. As soon as the fair ended, it mysteriously burned down. This is a recurring theme we will see again and again, the destruction of evidence. But look at the ruins. When a plaster building burns, it crumbles into dust. But in the aftermath photos of the Chicago fire, we see steel reinforcement, we see brick, we see stone arches standing amidst the rubble. Was the temporary narrative a lie to cover up the fact that these buildings were found, renovated, and then destroyed to hide their origin? Chicago wasn't alone. The St. Louis World's Fair, the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo, the Panama Pacific in San Francisco. All of them featured impossible architecture, supposedly built for a few months and then demolished. Who spends the equivalent of billions of dollars to build Rome only to tear it down a year later? Or were they celebrating a conquest,
Were these fairs actually victory laps, showcasing the cities of the old empire before they were wiped from the map?
Walk through any historic district in America. Boston, Seattle, Cincinnati. Look at the older buildings. You will notice something strange. Windows. Windows that are cut off at the bottom by the sidewalk. Windows that lead into the dirt. Architects call these light wells. But does that make sense? Why would you build a window underground? Why would you design a front door that requires you to walk up a flight of stairs to the first floor while the actual ground floor is buried? This brings us to the theory of the mud flood. The hypothesis is that sometime in the mid-19th century, a cataclysmic event occurred. A massive liquefaction of soil, or a global deluge of mud, that buried the ground floors of buildings across America and Europe. Look at the photographs of American cities in the 1860s. You see magnificent stone buildings, banks, opera houses, government halls, but the streets are dirt. Unpaved, muddy, chaotic dirt roads in front of palaces. Why would a civilization capable of carving intricate marble columns not be able to pave a street? The Tartaria theory suggests they didn't build the roads up to the buildings. The dirt buried the roads. The basements we see today were once the first floors. The first floors were once the second. We are literally walking on top of a buried civilization. In Seattle, they admit the city was razed. In Sacramento, they admit it. But they say it was for flood control or sewage. But why is this phenomenon global? Why do we find the same buried windows in Russia, in France, in England, and in small-town America? If a cataclysm wiped out a population and buried their cities, the survivors, or the new settlers, would simply dig out the top floors and start over. They would claim the buildings as their own. And that is exactly what the founding fathers of these cities might have done. Inheritors, not creators. There is a psychological eeriness to early photography. We are told that exposure times were long, so moving people disappeared. But look at the shadows. It's high noon. Where are the crowds? Where are the horses? We see cities built for millions, inhabited by none. When people do appear in these photos, there is a stark contrast. Men in ill-fitting suits, horse-drawn buggies that look like toys next to the megalithic structures behind them. It looks like a post-apocalyptic scene, a scavenger civilization living in the ruins of gods. This leads us to the darkest chapter of the Tartarian theory, the reset. In between 1854 and 1929, a strange phenomenon occurred in America: the orphan trains. Hundreds of thousands of children were transported from eastern cities to the Midwest and West. We are told they were orphans, abandoned by poor immigrants. But ask yourself, where did 200,000 orphans suddenly come from? Where were their parents? Even stranger, at the world's fairs, yes, the same fairs we discussed earlier, one of the most popular attractions was the incubators, rows of infants, supposedly premature, on display. The darker theory suggests these children were the repopulation force. If a cataclysm wiped out the adult population of the old empire, the controllers of the new narrative would need a workforce. Children with no memory of the past. Children who could be indoctrinated into a new history. A history that said, "We built this. We are the pioneers."
Was the American education system designed not to enlighten, but to erase? To rewrite the timeline so that the magnificent stone structures they found became the work of their ancestors rather than a lost superior civilization? What if the architecture wasn't just for aesthetics? What if it was functional? Nikola Tesla is famous for trying to create wireless free energy. He built the Wardenclyffe Tower to harness the Earth's etheric energy. But what if Tesla wasn't inventing something new? What if he was rediscovering something old? Look at the roofs of these old-world buildings. Domes, spires, metal poles. We are told they are religious symbols or flagpoles. But look at them with the eyes of an electrical engineer. They look like antennas. They look like conductors. The theory of Antiktech suggests that these buildings were machines. The cathedrals were not just places of worship, they were power plants. The massive organs inside, sonic resonators. The rose windows, cymatic vibration patterns. At the world's fairs, the lighting was spectacular. Millions of bulbs. They said it was steam-generated, but there are few photos of the massive amounts of coal needed to power such a grid. Was the grid already there? Was the atmospheric electricity being harvested from the ether, just as Tesla proposed? If free energy existed, why was it destroyed? Because you can't meter free energy. You can't sell it. The rise of the oil and coal barons, Rockefeller, Morgan, Carnegie, required the destruction of the old tech. The reset wasn't just about history, it was about economics. They tore down the antennas, removed the mercury from the spires, and sold us a world where we have to pay for every watt of power we use. How do you hide an empire? You burn it. The late 19th century in America wasn't just the era of construction, it was the era of the Great Fires. Chicago, Boston, Seattle, San Francisco, city after city destroyed by mysterious fires that burned hot enough to melt stone and steel. The official story for Chicago is that a cow kicked over a lantern. Does a lantern burn down a city of stone and brick? The official story for San Francisco is an earthquake, but residents reported explosions. The ruins looked less like a fire and more like a demolition. Was this the final step of the conquest? The buildings that were too obviously old world, too advanced to be explained away as colonial architecture, had to be destroyed. The fires cleared the slate. They allowed the controllers to rebuild with inferior materials, wood, brick, and steel, and claim the city as their own creation. So, what is Tartaria? It is not just a conspiracy theory about mud and bricks. It is a lens. It is a new way of looking at the world around you. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. You will walk through your city, and you will see the windows buried in the ground. You will see the stone masonry that defies explanation. You will see the spires that look like antennas. And you will realize that the story of human progress is not a straight line. We are not the pinnacle of civilization. We are the survivors of a greatness we have forgotten. History is written by the victors, but stone tells its own story. The question is, are you brave enough to listen to it? If this video made you question your reality, leave a comment below with the name of your city. Let's see if we can find the Tartarian evidence in your hometown. I'll be pinning the best discoveries. And if you want to support the channel and dive deeper into the lost history of Earth, check the link in the description.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. The truth is out there, buried just beneath your feet.